Okay,
Oh,
Leona,
yeah.
is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hard shift.
Right. Thank you very much, Leona. Welcome to the Planning Applications Committee meeting. Before we begin today, I want to advise you that the meeting is being recorded and a copy of the recording will be made available for public viewing on the Council's website. Also joining us today is Mr. Sandilands. He is the local democracy reporter and he's sitting in on the meeting as well. I'm going to run quickly through some of the information before we begin the meeting proper. I would ask everyone to mute your microphone when you're not speaking. This could cause interference and echo, and it just makes it a better meeting for everyone. The toolbar in front of you, I take it everyone understands the mute, unmute button, camera on, off, and the chat button and raise your hand button. If you do not have that on your screen, raise your hand. I will come to you anyway. Only unmute when speaking and then mute yourself again when finished. And also just to watch out about the mute unmute button is just right beside the share button on the right hand side of it. Again, if you want to speak, press the raise your hand button or raise your hand. I will get to you. And please note that anything written within the meeting chat is a matter of public record. And when reaching decisions, silence will be taken as assent, it says. So I'd like to welcome you officially to the meeting of the planning applications on 5th of August. I'm Councillor Annette Ireland. I'm chair of the committee. I'll introduce Councillor Miller and Councillor Convery, who are making up the committee here today. We also have Paul O'Neill, who is the clerk to the committee. Mrs. Gillian McCartney is the head of environment, the chief planning officer, and Mr. Ian Walker is a senior planner here with us today, and Mr. Graham Shankland is a principal officer for planning. So if we can actually move on, do we have any apologies for absence?
Thanks, Chair. We've had apologies intimated on behalf of Councillors Cunningham, McLean and Swift.
Okay. And does anyone have anything to declare before we move on to the meeting? Anyone in the committee? Okay. Thank you very much. We have one item before us today from page 3 onward. It is code is 2020-0018 TP, the installation of a multi-use games pitch with erection of fencing and floodlighting. Now, is it yourself, Mr. Walker, or Mrs. McCartney is going to speak to that, please?
Gillian, is it yourself, Gillian, or me?
I'm happy to do it, Ian.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
So this is a planning application on behalf of the Education Department. It is being submitted by East Renfrewshire Council Education Department. It is for the installation of a multi-use games pitch and erection of fencing and floodlighting, and we normally call these MUGAs, multi-use games areas, and quite a lot of East Renfrewshire schools have these either within the grounds of the school or adjacent to the school. So we have received 55 representations to the application, and the reasons for the representations are contained on page 9, and we split it up to the reasons for objection and the reasons of support, and there was a couple that neither were supporting or objecting but made comments, so we submitted that. So the site of the MUGA, I'm sure you all know where the primary school is, and you'll be aware that there is an area of grass, open space immediately to the east of the primary school. That area is used for the school in terms of its games and general sports that they carry out. The reason for this MUGA is that The grass area is quite frequently waterlogged and boggy. Well, I was going to say in the winter, but basically this is Scotland, so it could be any time of the year it's boggy and waterlogged. And that does limit the amount of kind of external sports and exercise that the pupils have. So the idea here is to create this multi-use games area, which will extend the time that the area can be used. And obviously, because it is a constructed on hard base, you know, with a proper surface, then there will be no waterlogging, and they'll be able to use it all the way through the winter as well. So the pitch measures 60 metres by 44 metres. It has a synthetic turf surface, shock absorbing layer, and the fencing is proposed to be 3 metres high, and it's made of a mesh wire mesh design, similar to the existing fencing within the area. The playing fields are owned by the council and they're managed by the Environment Department. The suggestion is that the multi-use games pitch will become part of the school grounds, and access arrangements would be via the school, as is the case with other primary school multi-games areas owned by the council. In most MUGAs, access can be provided on request to, for example, local community groups or football associations to use the space, and education have indicated that that would happen here. So in terms of the application itself, you'll see on the report that there's been several consultations and the responses there. The hours of, in relation to the environmental health consultation space, they have suggested that the hours of use of the proposed pitch be limited to the hours of 9 AM and 9 PM Monday to Friday, and 9 AM to 6 PM on Saturdays and Sundays. And again, this is similar to what has been approved elsewhere. In terms of light and glare from the proposed floodlights, the applicant has submitted what we call a light spill diagram with the application, which indicates where the light spill is into adjacent gardens, and that indicates that that spill level is at 5 lux, and this is well below the recommended 10 lux for light spill by environmental health, and that is acceptable prior to 11 PM at night. None of the floodlights will be directly shining into the houses, so what they get in their gardens is basically overspill from the lights, but it's not significant. So after the assessment, we have considered that there is no significant impact on in terms of residential amenity in relation to the lights, and in relation to the air quality as well. In terms of road safety and car parking, the road service has not objected to the proposal, and given its scale and nature, the proposal is not considered to generate such additional traffic that it would damage the adjacent road network or cause any nuisance. Given the nature of it, as in there's nobody living on the site, there's no overlooking or overshadowing issues from either the fences or the structures, and that's in terms of all the physical stuff. So one of the issues that we have also considered is that the proposal that the current pitches, the current grass area is open to everybody in the local vicinity or wider who wants to come and use the grass pitches. So the development of this MUGA will mean that a very small part of the overall green space will not be accessible to everybody at any time they want it, because it will be fenced and it will become education ground and it will be managed by education. So that is one particular issue that needs to be considered, because that could be considered as a loss of public open space. but in terms of the overall green space, it's not considered by us to be significant, but that's certainly something that we have had to take into account. I'm just running through. I'll mention noise because there are some of the objectors raised noise as a material consideration. And again, in terms of environmental health consultation response, due to the nature of the development and the fact that there is hours of operation restrictions proposed through the conditions on the planning concern, again, it's not considered to give rise to an unacceptable level of noise because of when the facility will be closed, open in the morning and closed at night. So in conclusion, it is our opinion that the proposal complies with the terms of the East Renfrewshire Local Development Plan, and there are no material considerations that would indicate the application should not be approved. So we've recommended approval of the application subject to 6 conditions, which relate to the hours of opening of the mugger and the days, the light levels from the floodlights to ensure that there's no light in people's houses and gardens that would affect their amenity. Requirement to show us the details of what the facility is going to be constructed of, so that we can ensure that the fencing and fixes will minimise the noise output from a ball strike. We've also asked specifically for the pitch details to be approved by the planning service before work starts on site. The provision of a litter bin, and to ensure that the principles of sustainable urban drainage system for the surface water regime is incorporated into the development. So that's my summary.
Thank you very much, Mrs. McCartney. Just before I pass over to the committee, on condition 2, the light levels from the floodlights as measured must not exceed 10 lux. Will you be looking for details of floodlights if this as a condition before their installation, or will the measurement take place after?
The lux levels can only be assessed once the floodlights are up. Now, floodlights are floodlights. They will probably give us the specification of what they're putting up, but they're fairly standard. Okay. But it's not until the lights are up and they're actually in operation can we assess the lux levels in terms of ensuring that they're in the right position and that they, obviously are complying with the conditions. So that's something that will be carried out when the floodlights are up. Okay. Environmental health can measure that, and if there's anything wrong, then we would obviously deal with that with the applicants and get the appropriate changes made.
Okay, thank you. That answers that for me. Can I open this out to the committee, please? Councillor Miller, are you wishing to come in?
Yes, please. I would first of all like to say that many years ago, and I mean very many years ago, I used to play football down there for the BB, and it was an ash park at that time. And I think when they built the Netherley Pavilion, they would then grass over that part, but it's not been used for organised football ever since then, I don't think. There's several of the things, the objections to it. You were talking earlier about lights there, but the lights are going to be, the thing's going to be shut down at 9 o'clock anyway. So most of the folk are going to be not in their bed by that time anyway, so it's not going to really affect too many people. Not only that, the light spill that they're talking about is very minimal. And going back to a lot of some of the other things, and certainly the consultation, I think there's been a fantastic consultation because they didn't need they've done everything legally they had to do, plus the school carried out a consultation as well. And okay, it might have been a loaded question, but of course there's going to be a loaded question. Noise nuisance, I don't think there's going to be any more noise there than what there's already there, because that park has been there for 60, 70, 80 years. The traffic impact, I think, will be absolutely minimal because there's already a school car park there and there's already a Netherley Pavilion car park. Yes, and I do know that there are car parking problems when the school has parents' nights and things like that. But that's nothing to do with this particular application. I honestly think this will actually enhance the area and enhance the school. Now, I did a wee bit of research, and I think there's only one school, I might be wrong, but I think there's only one school in East Renfrewshire that doesn't have a mugger other than Netherley. So why should the kids in Netherley miss out? I think it's a wonderful facility for the youngsters in Netherley. So I would actually support and give a wholehearted support to this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Miller. Councillor Convery, are you wishing to come in?
Yes, thank you very much. I totally agree with Councillor Miller. I think this mug will be an asset to the school and the local community. As they said, there's not much way of sports activities really over that side of the authority for the kids in the community. And as Stuart says, I think there is only other one school that doesn't have a mugger, and if it's anything to go by, it'll be a great success. It'll be widely used by the community and the school kids. And going back to what Gillian says about the loss of open space, yes, there will be some loss of open space, but it's only a small portion of it. There's still, it's not the whole area. There's still quite a lot of open space there left for the community to use to walk their dogs or go for walks or whatever it is to use that. So I'm in agreement. I think this will be an asset to that side of the authority, and I think we should go for it.
Yeah, I find myself in agreement with Councillor Miller and Councillor Convery. I do think it will be an asset to the school and to the wider community. I'm pleased to see that the roads didn't come in with an objection, and from the objections that have came in, a lot of that has been covered in this report that we have before us, particularly with the closing time of pulling that back to 9 p.m. Because I know that other muggers may be open to 10 p.m. But I thought that was really good to look at. I'd like to move that we accept the recommendation on page 13 to approve, subject to the conditions as listed from planning, unless anyone is otherwise minded. Okay. Thank you very much. Paul, can I pass to yourself?
Just on that basis, the committee has agreed to approve the application subject to the conditions detailed in the report.
You're on mute, Chair.
You're muted, Annette.
Thank you very much. No, thanks. Thanks for your time, and that concludes business today.
So just go through and go to the other line.
Hang up now, and then we'll sign in to the local review body.
Yeah,
Thanks
thanks
very
very
much.
much.